How is it you find your voice as a writer? There's several ways you can go about doing this. The first one is to realize that when it comes to academic writing, there are a lot of conventions, but there are very few rules. A lot of people think that there's a lot of rules and it's very, very stringent. But if you look around and pay attention to all the academic writing that's out there, you'll see there are a lot of ways to do it. So you probably have a lot more flexibility than you realize. One thing to think about is your geolinguistic context. In an Anglo-Saxon style of writing, for example, the burden of clarity is on the writer. If you write something and it's unclear, it's your job to go back and fix it so that the reader understands what you're trying to say. If you come from a more continental tradition, for example, it's much more accepted to have tangents, to have complex argumentation, and to have threads that don't necessarily get picked up, because this is meant to challenge the reader, to get them to think about things. Another tradition, which you'll see many places in the area, sort of discourages an individualistic style of writing and tries to put forth an argumentation that represents a school of thought. And this makes it very difficult sometimes to hear the individual writer's voice in that argumentation. Even within these different traditions, you'll find that there are some variations. For example, in the Anglo-Saxon style, there's quite a big difference between American and British style of writing. American is a little bit more informal, and some might say a little bit more bombastic, say things with a little bit more confidence, whereas the UK style is a little bit more cautious and a little bit more formal. You'll also notice within disciplines there are different ways of writing. There are different ways of accepting, for example, how you talk about yourself and your own research. In some disciplines it's perfectly acceptable to say I. In other disciplines it's not. In some disciplines, not only is it okay to say I, but you need to step back and reflect very actively on your own positionality in your research. And other disciplines and methods, that would be completely unheard of to talk about yourself being so involved in your own research. One thing you can do is simply to read a lot. By reading a lot, both within your discipline and within your field of study, but also in other disciplines and other fields of study, you get a real sense of what is acceptable, what kind of conventions are out there, but not only that, how much room for flexibility you actually have. And finally, the most important thing you can do is simply write a lot. Rewrite and rewrite and find your own voice in your own writing.